Welcome to Who Does He Think He Is, an interview show where the guest never changes, but the interviews do. I am your perpetual guest, JV Andres, and the host for today is Chris Patane. Chris and I have a discussion that really ends up exploring creativity, creative expression, my identity as a creative person, and we end this wonderful discussion with an exploration of the adjectives that we claim for ourselves and how we get there. Please enjoy.
Or, I'm assuming everyone who's going to watch this knows me. So I'm Chris. You've met me before, or you've seen my work in your other video.
True.
And you will tell me about it at QVC and make me very confused. How long have we known each other? Was it 20?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. I moved to Houston in 21. Started playing D&D in 22, I think.
Okay.
So probably 2022. I think
22 or 3? Yeah.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. So
okay.
yeah, a little bit.
I didn't realize it was that long ago.
I know.
Yeah. As with everyone, as with most people in this group now, right? Met playing D&D.
Yes.
And now have been in, I don't know how many, 3 campaigns now?
Yeah.
Right? Because we had Mass Effect.
Uh-huh.
Now we're in Jibs, Fallout, and we're sitting among the wreckage of my Vampire the Masquerade campaign.
Yeah.
Where we're where you were playing maybe the most evil character until recent events, but
yeah. I mean, yet to be seen. I mean,
true.
The potential is there. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. When you can control entire buildings' moods.
Yeah. I mean, of course, that bit of evil happened before our doctor arrived, who does wonderful things with flesh. So
yeah, that's true. Yours is more of an emotional horror than the physical.
It's a genre blend of horror, our little campaign, which is
fun. And actually, this was not a question that I was going to ask, but you play kind of, I would describe her as a, if a manic pixie dream girl had the power to get everything she wanted and was unhealed.
Yes. It's weird. It's weird because I have described Olivia as the evil version of me. And I do have a lot of parallels with her because I do feel like I could do anything I thought of to do. But Olivia is by nature a monster. So that makes the way she approaches things and thinks about things differently than how I would. So
yeah, when you describe her as like the evil version of you, is it I know there's always something fun to think about, like people who play evil characters and like act like, I think about this, and I think Abby and I have talked about it with you about like actors who play only bad guys end up being like the nicest people in the world. Like, do you think of it as a like? There's the kind of like stereotypical like, well, it's an exit or it's like a safety valve for all of these like negative thoughts that people must have. So they go and play they play the evil and get it out. Or is it well, no, I would never do this because that's just so messed up. No. But like sometimes it's fun to pretend to be a bad guy.
I think the most compelling portrayals of quote unquote evil characters are when the actor, you can tell they fundamentally have a very empathetic, sympathetic, deep understanding of why this character truly thinks that what they're doing is the right thing to do. And that's how I like approaching Olivia. I mean, there's an internal consistency to her. And as far as she's concerned, she thinks she's helping people.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, that's really at least the intention that she has and where it starts. And I think that's what makes it so insidious too. And so unsettling is that she really believes she's doing the right thing.
Is that something that you This might be getting too deep too quick, but
Love it.
One of the things I enjoy when I play an evil character, when I play all my evil NPCs that I get to play right at this table.
Yeah.
There's the like, I'm a person who spends a lot of time worrying about how my actions affect people. Mm-hmm. And so with these, I can be like, well, these are people who think that what they're doing is best for them, and then don't take that extra step of thinking about how does this affect the people around me. So they just burn a swath through the people around them. Is that how you think about Olivia, or is it a different, like, where's the empathy that you have like in your daily life with your friends and people you care about, where you don't do evil things to them?
Right.
And still want to think about yourself, or still think about yourself as a good person. But now you're playing someone who thinks they're a good person and their actions are devastating to the people around them.
Well, that's the thing. I personally, in my personal life, am very conscious of the impact I make in other people's lives. I think Olivia also is. I think she very much is. But the impact she thinks she's making, which I think in her mind, she's thinking, I am being an inspiration to these people and helping them be their most creative selves and achieve things they couldn't have without me, is predicated on a fulcrum of it's because of Olivia thinking, because of my qualities, that inspires or pulls something better out of somebody else, not necessarily what's in those other people. It's the locus of where that inspiration is being pulled from and drawn to that makes her and me different. Yeah. She is pulling people toward herself intentionally because she thinks she's so great and has something to give people. That's like the opposite of me, because I struggle. People tell me, "Oh, you're so great," and I'm like, "What? I don't believe that.
You're lying to me."
Exactly. So that already is fundamentally so different, right? So yeah, I think that's the difference, and it's like, it's like subtle enough and parallel enough that I think that's why I really enjoy playing this character, and why I think I like get the evil turn. I understand if I were to just tweak a few knobs in me, like how I could be that, and why I can play this character like I can. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question that I actually wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Granted, this is only the second episode, and I have it crossed out like once or twice in my notes because I couldn't figure out if I am the host or the guest. So, how's it feel just being the forever host of your own podcast, but you're not actually the host? You are the guest. You are the one who should be swapping in and out instead of all of us.
I mean, it's really fun, really exciting, really ideal for me because I don't prepare any questions. I don't have to do any of that beforehand. I literally just bring myself and what I know and who I am. I just show up, which is wonderful, wonderfully freeing, and really exciting because I have no idea what's coming, what the rotating hosts have prepared, what's going to be asked, what subjects we're going to talk about. But I think for me, it really is an exercise in trying to be as open as possible with whatever's asked, and being willing to go as deep as possible with whatever topics without holding back at all, which is, I think, what hopefully makes this interesting for people. Yeah.
Cool.
Like, it's exploring this question. What is the limit of inquiry when it comes to one person? Like, how deep can you go to get to know somebody?
How many different questions can you ask the same person?
Exactly. Or even, how many different questions, or even if it's the same one, how deep can you go with that subject or thought? I mean, we're exploring that with this, and we'll see. We'll see where that goes, where that rabbit hole leads.
Well, like I mentioned, I'm saving the, like, at least what I think are the deeper questions. Because I think I warned you I was going to approach this as an academic. So, like, everything has to have a structure to it.
Great. Love it.
So I have two that are just kind of like, I think I mentioned this before. They're not silly. They are, you could maybe say, trivial, because they're not what's your favorite dinosaur, but if you have your favorite dinosaur, you can tell me, because that is important to know.
Okay.
If you don't, that's also okay. But a couple months ago, you showed us Days of Heaven, which I believe you said is your favorite movie, or one of your favorites.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, Terrence Malick.
The only other one that I think might compete is I can't remember the name, but the Tarzan Singh movie that you showed us, The Fall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So obviously, both of those are what we would classify as good movies that are your favorite.
Okay.
I want to know, what is your favorite bad movie?
Ooh. Okay. Favorite bad movie?
Yeah. Whether that's because it was a critical flop, or it's like not actually that well made, or is cheesy.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, that's good. First, Archaeopteryx would be mine.
What is that?
I just love dinosaurs with feathers, you know?
Oh, I thought I'm silly. I thought that was a movie that I had not heard of. It sounds like a movie title, First Archaeopteryx, but
it does.
Archaeopteryx is good. Yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good one. And man, feathers on a dinosaur. Love it. Okay, let's see. Favorite bad movie. Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's a classic. Samuel L. Jackson just kills that role. And I do distinctly remember going to see that movie with my friends in college, just on bated breath, waiting for that line that was in the trailer that Samuel L. Jackson delivers. Somebody get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane. Like, just waiting for that, and then just being ecstatic and cheering whenever the line finally happened, and very much annoying the other people who were there in the theater. We had a great time.
Did your theater, because I saw this in theaters when it came out as well.
Yeah.
Did your theater all cheer when he said it?
For whatever reason, it was just me and my friends who were just like, yes. Everyone else was just like, this movie is weird, terrible. Oh my God, what a waste of money. What am I here? But we were having the best time.
Where'd you see it?
It was in the west suburbs of Chicago.
Okay.
I was going to school up there. I don't remember exactly which theater, but yeah, that's where it was.
I was curious because I saw it when I was in college, but I was in a college town, so everyone in the theater was a college kid.
We might have seen it either in a small town theater there and in an offbeat time, and also, weirdly enough, the college I went to there was very buttoned up, and it's this private Christian college, and we were the cool offbeat kids who didn't really fit in. So heck yeah, we were going to see this movie, and most other kids there probably didn't really care or know about it. So
they just saw a movie, and then you were like, "I'm there for the line. Show me the line."
Yes. Yeah. So that was a good time. I think I just call that one out because I just really enjoyed seeing that with my friends. Yeah. And we knew going into it that it was going to be bad. And I think that's, there's this just whole genre of film that's a thing. It's going to be bad. The people who are in it know it's bad and are just hamming it up and having a good time. And I think there's a lot of space for that in film.
Yeah. I mean, some of my favorite movies are like that. So that is a movie I've not thought about in a long time. I now want to go back and rewatch it.
That one's good. Sharknado's good.
Sharknado's
it's incredible. Yeah, there's just so many good ones. Yeah.
Okay. So, same vein.
Okay.
I cannot claim credit for this question. I actually stole this from the podcast Marlon and Jake Read Dead People, which is the author Marlon James and his editor talking about books and specifically talking about dead authors.
Okay.
But they have a different theme each week.
Yeah.
They've all read more books than I will ever read in my entire life. They're way smarter than I am.
Yeah.
But they recently had an episode about books they would never revisit.
Oh.
As in they had to read them and they gave up, or they had to read them and will never do it again because they hated it so much. They spent a little bit of time talking about books that they read that they loved, but they will never pick up and read again.
Oh.
Either because they were too difficult or too upsetting. But like they're books they still think about and they're like, this was a good book that I'm glad I read. I'm never touching it again. And obviously I would like to know yours because I know Abby's going to talk about your favorite book. So I can't just like steal her question.
Okay.
So I want your favorite book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You're glad you read it, but no one will ever make you read it again.
Wow. It's weird that the Twilight series is the first thing I think of because it's not good. It's really not.
It doesn't have to be good. You just have to like it.
The pages turn, and I really enjoyed it. And I also distinctly remember reading, in the middle of reading it, thinking, this is insanity on a page. it's insanity on a page.
So I've never read them, so like I don't know anything about like how I've seen some of the movies, but I have no idea how insane it gets.
It's a wild time. I distinctly remember, spoilers for Twilight, reading, and Bella is like, I thought the books were getting really interesting because she's hearing Edward's voice in her head, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? We got some like telepathy on, or we got some like weird, like, I don't know, it's weird premonitions or like echoes of something. Like this is, and it dawns on you as the reader that her psyche has broken, really. Like she's just, it has this weird obsession about Edward, and realizing that as a reader, definitely had me thinking as I was reading that page, how insane of a portrayal of idealized romance or whatever this was. Yeah.
So it's like,
it's wild.
Is it one of these things where it's like, it feels like, oh, we're about to get to something like super promising, maybe a little bit profound, and then does it go off the rails after that? Does it just like?
It was a realization that we had been off the rails for a while.
Okay.
Like the train was off-roading through the woods.
Okay.
and I hadn't realized it for a while until that point. And I was like, oh, we're out here. Yeah. Which, it was a trip. It was, it's a very distinct experience. And it's funny that, we talk about, films that are quote unquote bad intentionally or otherwise. And like, the experience of, it's like watching The Room or something. The experience of a film that's like made so seriously, or a book series that's so earnest, but also wildly like making wild choices that make you think why is an experience.
You had this thought, you put it on the page and it shouldn't work. And it doesn't, but it's also kind of working for me.
And also just gives me, when you as a reader are supposed to have questions about the narrative and the story and the characters and the motivations, whatever. When you start questioning the author's mental state,
okay, I see.
When you start questioning Stephenie Meyer's state of mind as she's furiously writing the Twilight series, listening to Muse on repeat, like,
I forgot that part. Yeah.
It's wild.
So you started wondering if this is like a glimpse into how she's feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
As she's stuck in the middle of writing this giant book.
And like, just kind of her own personal values and beliefs and kinks and fantasies. It's really interesting. Yeah.
And you're like, I thought this was a book about vampires.
Yeah. It's great. It's kind of like as I think about it now, I'm actually thinking about it a little more favorably because it's kind of a picture of how we as humans who aren't born and are created as monsters or whatever, or living on lives, can also be pretty fucked up and weird. And so from that standpoint, it's interesting.
So maybe second read is in order.
Maybe I actually didn't answer the question. Maybe I revisited the Twilight series.
I mean, this is the fun thing about this question, because I with all of these, right, they were ones like, well, how would I answer if they were asked to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know that I'd be able to answer this either, right? I have lots of books that I did not enjoy reading, right? Like we were at hurricane season, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic book, awful to read, but like I'd maybe read it again one day, right?
Yeah.
Most of the books that I would not go back and read were ones that I've just like viscerally hated.
Right.
And I was kind of cool to think about, like, I got the sense from your response, you're like, oh, all right, I'm telling you about this like guilty pleasure book that I read.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just launch into this, like, you're watching this person fall apart. And it's clearly it's a super vivid, very well done, very easy to empathize with portrayal. And now you're like, oh, maybe that's good. Like,
right.
And that's part of the fun of I don't know. It's not bad fiction, but like really intense or silly, like genre fiction type of stuff, right? It's one of the reasons why I like it so much. But,
yes.
Yeah. Cool way to answer that. Like I was curious as to, like, do you have a book that you hated so much that you finished it out of spite?
Yeah. I distinctly remember being in the back seat of a car. I was riding with my friend who lived in Biloxi, Mississippi, to visit his family over Thanksgiving, just to come hang out, visit his friend. And I was getting carsick in the back, reading the Left Behind series.
No.
And I was like, I'm like 7 books into this thing. Like, I've got to see it through. And I was like feeling like physically sick, but also reading this book being like, this is not great. Like, what are these characters doing? They're just like following a plot at this point. Like, why are they making these decisions? It makes no sense. Like, I'm literally thinking that as I'm reading it, but I just felt like, gotta finish the story. Yeah, it was a bad time.
Was this before or after you started deconstructing your faith?
Man, that might have been a key part of it now, thinking about it. But
that's kind of why I asked.
I mean, it was before, but also at the time, I distinctly remember thinking, oh, these are for the people who believe in like the rapture and all that. And I was already at that point thinking, yeah, I'm an amillennialist. Like, there's like the rapture's not going to happen. You know, it's going to happen differently. Like, this is just a subset who thinks this is going to happen just like these pages. So I was already kind of thinking differently at that point, and like logicking my way out of what a lot of people were thinking, I guess, within my own tradition of belief. So, yeah.
It was oh wow, this is what you think is going to happen type of.
Yeah.
Was the like, it's interesting because, you know, you started with Twilight and how it's this guilty pleasure read.
Right.
But it sounds like it had a much bigger emotional impact than just these people going through like the steps of a plot they had to go through because that's what the faith says the plot is.
Right.
And you would assume, right, that somebody who shared a version of that faith would be like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like, this is how the story is going to go. But like, you very clearly had a much stronger connection and reaction with like,
oh, definitely,
this weird little vampire book.
I mean, Twilight had no script that I was familiar with. That was not a formula that I'd ever. So, you know, I think that's part of the merit of the Twilight series.
You heard it here first. If you need to deprogram religion, read Twilight.
There we go. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Silly questions over for now.
Okay. All right.
This one is, or these next few are a little bit more serious. I noticed in your interview with Randy, you guys both talk a lot about like calling yourself creative, creating things. And the first thought I had when listening to that portion is wow, if I ever called myself that, I would sound like the most arrogant piece of shit in the world, because I don't actually make anything. I say as we're sitting among this. And then I had that realization, right, that we're going to be doing this here. So the question is, where did you get that comfort in describing yourself that way as a creative person?
Yeah.
Or where did you get that like belief in yourself that like, oh, this is a label that like actually applies to me and is fits me and is worth calling myself regardless of what you do and how you do it?
Incredible question. I really appreciate it. I distinctly remember talking to my college advisor when I was finishing up my bachelor's degree in psychology, and essentially had a crisis, a career crisis of, I'm not really feeling psychology. I have a lot of questions about the foundations of the field. Doesn't feel like a real science to me. I'm taking all these art classes. I like making stuff and doing photography, and I was in an improv group and all this stuff. And I essentially, it was a question of, what should I invest my time into? What is my identity? Who am I? And I had I remember her distinctly asking me, like, are you an artist? And I couldn't answer that question in the affirmative. It was more of a, I don't know, because there is such a wall that has been erected around art and creativity and what that even looks like and what it should be, that I hadn't broken down yet for myself. I needed to go through essentially a journey of populism and a rejection of pretension when it comes to art, enjoying art, and creativity. I had to go to a place and to a point where I believe that it is for everyone and includes me. I describe myself now as a creative person, and I bring that person with me everywhere, to work, to personal life, whatever it is. But I was not always there because I did not know that. Oh, thanks. I did not know that what I do now, which is like video and crafting and like all kinds of stuff, this jokes that turn into real things like this podcast. I did not know that that was accessible to me. And I was in a framework where there were gates to keep. And
framework, that was that one that you had put on yourself, or what you had been taught when you were in university?
I literally remember, and I know it's just the structure of how academic programs work. I remember applying to classes and then being asked to withdraw because I wasn't technically in that track.
Oh, so you're taking space from something.
I'm sitting in I'm sitting in an art class, and the professor asking me, why are you here? Essentially, like in different words, but essentially, yeah. And I was like, isn't this a little, I'm thinking in my head, like, isn't this a liberal arts college? Can't I just take whatever, apparently no. So yeah, I mean, it's like this, and of course it makes sense in that setting, but at the same time, I adopted these impressions of, this is for specific people who are solely dedicated to this. And I had to deconstruct that belief as well.
How did you do that? Because the way, and you can, I guess maybe the question answer first on that is, when your advisor, asks you that question, are you an artist? How did that feel? Did it, because my reaction on hearing that, right, placing myself there,
Yeah.
I would have read that as her being dismissive or like trying to nudge you back to where she thinks you should be for whatever.
I mean, to give the emotional context of the conversation, I think she was being very sympathetic and really wanting to hear me out. So I don't think she was being dismissive at all. I think she was genuinely helping me to just inquire that of myself, at an interrogation of my identity in that period of time, which was very up in the air, still figuring things out in my 20s. So it was a direct question, but I think a very good and valid one. And I think she was really trying to help me just ask those questions of myself as I was kind of in a crossroads of what I was going to want to do from then on, as far as my career and otherwise. I think all the soul searching that happened since then, and all the career starts and stops and attempts, were a part of this search, not just for what do I meaningfully do to subsist and survive in this system that we have to live in, but also finding meaningful work and meaningful action and things to do, and what I can do to satisfy my own wants and needs, and but also make an impact that I personally can make. I think because, and this is just a part of the answer too, there was a time for, I don't know, about a decade or so where I really was not plugged into creative work. Gotten married, started nursing school, started my career, did all of this stuff. And this thing that I had a lot of passion for right before all of that went away for a while. And it took me too long to realize that this was an integral part of me that I needed to reclaim for myself. And part of me getting to that place was an acknowledgement of me needing to meet my own needs and express my own needs and wants, not just to other people, but to myself. It was a part of that journey, and realizing, because my brain is trying to kill me, I need to do everything possible to prevent that. And part of that is I'm going to do as much as possible the things that make me happy. And one of the things that do is doing creative work. It was a matter of necessity and survival in the way that it started. I guess for me, revisiting and coming back home to that person, it's as if I rediscovered him and became him again. Like the me that was in that first undergraduate setting, having really deep conversations like this one with people I encountered on a day-to-day basis, really thinking through issues, solving creative problems, collaborating with other creatives and other media. That person went away for a while, and I had to find him again.
Do you remember a moment when it clicked for you that you could answer that advisor's question in the affirmative? That, like, yes, I'm an artist, or I'm a creative. Was it before you rediscovered this part of yourself that you for good reasons, but also was causing you a lot of pain, obviously, right? Found this part of yourself again that, like, needed to be fed so that you could be alive. Did that did that confidence or that comfort, or if it's not comfortable, even just ability to say, like, no, I'm a creative person, I'm an artist. Did that happen before you rediscovered this part of yourself, or did it come about because of it?
I think other people saw it before I did. I distinctly remember at work garnering a reputation as quote unquote the creative one, which I didn't really think much of at first. It felt kind of like an othering a little bit. But I think as I started to do this work to rediscover myself and feed myself, I owned that term, that label, and realized that, yes, that actually is who I am, not just at work, but everywhere. And I just had to step into it. Yeah. Yeah. Was there a specific moment? I do think there was a specific moment where I started to describe myself as just a creative person who takes that person everywhere. And I think it even happened while I was producing this video that I just finished for work, where I interviewed like 6 of the executives in my company. I even drove to Austin for it, all this. In the planning for that, one of the chiefs in my company who asked me to do it, we were just in this discussion of how did you get into video? And of course, you were a part of that journey, because I didn't really start to get into it until we had a silly idea to do a Architectural Digest style bookshelf tour of your many books. I had the elements of the multimedia discipline that is video already, because I'm a musician and did other things, but that's the first time I put all of that together. But that really wasn't the essence of my answer to her. It was what I had told you previously. It's, yeah, I see myself as a creative person. And I just take that person everywhere. It's part of a desire that I have to be the same person everywhere, as opposed to presenting a certain facet of myself in front of this or that friend group, or in front of my parents or workplace or whatever it is. A desire to find who that consistent person is and just be that person, but at the same time learning to trust myself, that I am a good person, that I make good decisions, that I don't intentionally harm people. And that trust had to grow for me to get to the point where I could stake a claim in an identity that I could confidently claim as my own. Because I think the difficulty in answering that question, are you an artist, wasn't just about me not knowing who I was. It was me not having the confidence to claim one, to claim an identity. And I have that now, but it took a very long time to gain that. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very nice.
Yeah. Very good question. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I will one day accept that for myself. But we shall see. So you have, we've touched on a little bit some of your other answers, and you talk about it a little bit in your interview with Randy. Last year or so, lots of things have changed for you.
Yeah.
And I, instead of asking about any of those, I thought it'd be fun to ask you, what is something that stayed the same for you that you cherish, or is there something, or you can answer both if you want.
Yeah.
Is there something that you have now as a result of all of these changes, or even before these changes, that you can clearly say, oh, I want to keep this thing the way it is and sort of carry it with me?
Yeah. It's This is really interesting. I feel like a lot of the changes that I went through in the past couple of years, including, and this is in the last episode too, going through a divorce and a separation of lives and all of that stuff. I think what marks that time and what was so excruciating to go through was a fight for certain things to not change, certain things to remain consistent through all of that change. One being the community that I'm in, that Ray and I are both mutually in. It really took a lot of effort to keep that together, to have us both be present in that. And even now, I mean, the joint Not a Divorce party that we had, where we invited all of you there, I think was a part of that. That was something I'd wanted to do from the very beginning, something I'd talked early on with Ray about. That was something that I really wanted. And I had named that, both for myself and for us, as a significant milestone, a significant point that I could look forward to. We go through this process, represent ourselves in court and do all that legal stuff, separate our assets, do all that, and then have this party and show our community that, there is no picking sides here. We're still here. We're still part of the community. We still love all of you. We are still friends. In fact, we're best friends. We love each other. Like all of that, like tangibly communicated in one of the many theme parties that we have, because it was also a theme party.
And many more to come. Yeah.
And many more to come. Yes.
There's three coming up?
Yeah. It's it marks our friend group, and I love it. Lots of creative, fun folks in our group, but that is a picture of how we fought for that to stay the same. And I mean, I personally fought for that because of the knee-jerk reaction when you tell people that, oh yeah, we're going through a divorce or we're separated now, whatever it is there's like this look behind people's eyes of like, oh no, like whose side should I choose? Like, oh, how does this work? Or they immediately say like, I'm your friend and I'm her friend too. I want you to know that. I'm like, hey, it's cool. Like,
I've always hated them. I've known you both for 20 years, but just
right. I mean, there was some of that too, which I had to fight against. I had to push back against. Like, no one's the bad person here. Like, yeah. There were like, not with y'all, but with certain friends, like, yeah. And I mentioned this in Randy's interview too, like sexist assumptions about Ray that I really had to fight against, all kinds of stuff to really push back against. But that was a big one, fighting for that to remain consistent. And it has remained consistent. We're still in it and in this community together. And it's been a beautiful thing at the party to hear people when Tyler and Hannah, at the time newly engaged, or not newly engaged,
you're like a month away from getting married,
right?
I think, right?
Right. Yeah. Very close to their wedding. Congratulate us for our divorce, essentially, right? Congratulate us for our relationship evolution. I just thought that was such a poignant thing, that these people who are about to start this life together could see a picture of how you can do an ending of a relationship, or at least a type of relationship, because all relationships end. Like they all do in some way or another. And this is a way that we could claim that ending for ourselves and choose how to do it. So that's a big one. Yeah, that's probably the most significant thing that I wanted to stay consistent amid all the change. Yeah.
Cool. In a similar vein, less about sort of something that you want to keep. But, there's the sort of one of the reasons why the divorce party was so fun is that, that's a thing that people always joke about doing, or like one person will have the divorce party, to have the couple have the divorce party. And like, be nice to each other during it, right, is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of implied by how you described Tyler and Hannah congratulating you, right? You two were changing a relationship. The two of you weren't like ending a life.
Yeah.
Right. You were both still, you're also living your lives. It just looks a little bit different.
Right.
And so there's this like stereotype or this like expectation, right? Someone's going through a divorce, right? There's a lot of sadness. And while acknowledging that all can exist, sort of in my interest in like going in the opposite direction, right? In the last year, what would you say the happiest moment that you've had is?
I have come to a point where I realize that because of Ray and I living separate lives, I've seen us become even more expansive versions of ourselves than they were before. And part of what's so different and wonderful is that now I feel like I've finally attended to myself as opposed to abandoned myself.
Does this coincide with you rediscovering the creative side that would these have been around the same time?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's a part of it. Another big part of it is, like really living into the reality of like who I am as like an asexual person and what I value in friendships and relationships, and finding that in me being true to myself, I have drawn to myself people who also want to have friendships as deep as I want. Like I have multiple best friends now who we have acknowledged to each other that we want to be in each other's lives for the foreseeable future and love each other and are best friends with each other. Like there is something incredibly joyful to know that at any point I have multiple people I can turn to if I need help. And that if somebody either isn't as available, another person will be. Or if somebody, if I need to receive from these friends, there is somebody who is in a place to give, and vice versa. I am essentially coming into this part of my life where I can just enjoy this reality that I want to say worked so hard for, but it really is just a matter of just me being myself, a reality that is now my life.
What makes that not hard work, right? You are just because you're doing it for yourself. I didn't mean to interrupt, but like I asked this because this is what I wrestle with myself, right? But I think people can pick up from your interview with Randy. I can pick this up from just knowing you. You have always struck me as a person who thinks it is easier to do things for other people than for yourself.
Yes.
So why does that hard work not count for you?
I guess it is hard. It takes intentionality. It takes effort. And it has been a lot of hard work. But I guess the distinction I want to make is that me being myself really should not have been hard work. I should have just let myself be myself. It should be an easy thing, even though for me it's been hard. And maybe that's why I paused at characterizing it that way. Because yes, it has been hard work, but it's also just me being me, which on the face of it should be easy. Or at least
it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be easy. And I think it's getting easier. I really do. And as I find people in my life who are affirming who I am, but as I also am more able to believe them, it becomes easier too. Yeah.
So it's less that it sounds like it's less that there is a like happiest moment and more just there became a point where you realized that like you could just be who you are, and like that it's not so much a moment but a shift in how you see yourself.
I mean, there are moments. I don't think there's just one, because there are several important people in my life. I can literally point to the moments where
you be polyamorous about happiness. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's essentially how it works.
Yeah.
No, I remember so I went on a week-long trip to Seattle with Jen, and I distinctly remember at one point, because what marked that trip was we talked so much, like especially to the beginning of the trip. We were up till like 5 or 6 a.m. Seattle time, just like hanging out, talking. I remember at one point she distinctly asked me, this might have even been on like the plane ride back, like after this whole week of just hanging out, talking the whole time. She asked me, like, are you my best friend? And I just remember being so happy to like hear that, right? After conversations about, friendships that started in the past but fizzled out, or different friend groups that she's had in the past that for whatever reason aren't anymore. Even like family members or whatever it is, like, or even, this being able to answer essentially a question of, this is something I experience, it's a pattern in my life, friends go away. Me being able to diffuse that immediately and say, I'm not going anywhere. And then hearing that question from her later on was incredibly happy. Like, that's a great moment for me of, I can be this person. And when I say I'm not going anywhere, I mean it, and I know I won't. Like, I know I'll be here. And I am ecstatic that the friend that I want to be, I can be, that I have that freedom because of who I am and how I'm wired. And even now, not being in a marriage or whatever it is, not having to run decisions through or a schedule through somebody else or whatever it is. Like, the freedom I have to be present and show up for the people I care about is exponentially more than I had before. The energy I have now, because I get to go home to my own space because I live alone and really value that. And the energy that I get from that has allowed me to do so much more and be so much more and be there for so many more people, which I really value and love.
So to continue with this theme of expansion and doing more.
Yeah.
Kind of the last of my sort of serious questions here. This can be in the last few years. It can be just a thought that you've had at any point, but it's something that you've wanted to do, but it's felt like it's not been the right time. And whatever this thing is, or things, because it doesn't have to be just one. How could your friends help make that happen?
A thing that I wanted to do, but it's not been the right time.
Either emotionally or literally physically, not the right time.
It's a great question. It's so weird, because as much as it seems like I have plans cooking for years, which sometimes I do, sometimes I obsess over a new hobby I want to get into, and in the back of my head I'm like,
the gears are turning on how I can make it happen, and someday I show up and make professional quality videos. Yeah, for example. I mean, okay, that does happen today. Do I have anything else cooking like that? Oh wow. Wow, have you stumped me?
It doesn't have to be anything big, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Huh. It's weird. It's so weird because, like, if there's a thing I want to happen, I just make it happen. I was thinking about that today. I don't prevaricate or spend so much time wanting a thing if I can make it happen. And I'm finding that with a lot of things, I can make it happen. Like the video we made together, the interview, the other one, the bookshelf tour.
Interview, yeah. The one where you were actually interviewing me.
When I was interviewing you. I mean, essentially the conversation was like, why don't we just make this silly idea happen? Like, why don't we just do it? Let's just do it. Or the music video I made with Skylar. Like, what if this was real? Let's make it real. I'm in the business of making things real that aren't. And I love helping people's big ideas become real. I mean, you know, there are enough musicians in this friend group to form a band. I mean, there's so many things that we could do. But I think it's for the next multi-year, let's put our heads together and make it happen kind of project. It'll require some collaboration. I have started with Skylar doing very early pre-production on a short film we want to make that probably will take a year or two. Mm-hmm. And there will be a point where we will need crew and actors. And I mean, the dream is to showcase it at the Houston Cinema Arts Society's monthly local filmmaker showcase at River Oaks Theater. I want that to happen. And I guess I do have an answer for you. For that to happen, I will need y'all's help. And I know there will be people who will be willing to help. I mean, we have people who've been to film school, like Beck's a gaffer and has done lighting and has lights and owns them. There are folks who can help make this happen.
And for everything else, how many theater kids do we have?
So many. So many theater kids. No, this we can make a film. And this is a short film. It's a smaller scope project, but what's the project after that going to look like? Yeah. I think it'll be even better.
Just let me know, and if I can help, I will. I will not be confident about any of it. But, okay, this one's a little bit silly.
Okay,
where it's the silly version of what I just asked. So I'm assuming most people who watch this right now, or at least early on, know us. Mm-hmm. But for people who don't, our group has a deep, everlasting love of the bit and committing to it.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
To the point where, as we were talking before, it gets exhausting because people have so much pre-theme party homework to do every time. Mm-hmm. You have one coming up that
yes.
you are planning.
Yes.
I have one coming up that I'm planning.
Yes.
But this was inspired by you and Beck doing your New Year's Eve party.
Oh yeah.
Where y'all went way harder than anybody had any right to.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that you have unlimited resources, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Mostly, right, the physical and emotional energy to commit to a bit that hard. Let's say it's for a theme party.
Oh yeah.
What's your dream full commit theme party that you want to do?
I mean, I'm going to a party on Halloween that's being held by Strange Bird Immersive. It's an immersive theater company that does escape rooms in town, nationally recognized, has won awards, national awards for like best escape room in the country. You know, they're incredible. It's a 1920s themed party that's going to be held in a Art Deco 1920s film theme, or building from the 1920s, the Rockefeller. If I had unlimited resources, I would hire that whole company to essentially play characters in a theme party, maybe in a rented warehouse or something, have people create sets or whatever it is, to essentially have, an immersive, you go into another dimension of the world experience. I don't know what the theme would be or whatever it is, but that's the scope of what I would love to do if I had those resources. I would just hire out that whole company to be like, all right, we're gonna do costumes, we're gonna have lighting, we're gonna have sets, we're gonna have special effects, we're gonna do the whole thing, and y'all are gonna be players in it. And then I'm gonna invite people to essentially exist in this space, this place for a while. I mean, that's essentially, it would be like, Sleep No More in New York or whatever. It's like essentially it would be like, because that is what theme party is, right?
Yeah.
It is immersive theater. And
that is kind of, I was going to be like, it is lower budget LARPing.
Lower budget LARPing. Exactly. I mean, like for my birthday, essentially did a themed trip, right? Which is a step beyond theme party.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, think about that. Yeah.
Right. Like I've already done a miniature version of this where, hey, I'm going to we're going to run an Airbnb and a theater in New Orleans, and it's going to all be like vampire themed, and we're all just going to go. So yeah, something like that, but bigger. Yeah. And I mean, that gives me an idea of like, why just one night? Like, what if it was like a themed summer camp for adults where essentially that's like what Renfest is, but instead of the campground being like people doing random like stuff, like you go and it's, okay, we're just talking about LARPing now, but
but not necessarily medieval.
LARPing, but not necessarily medieval. Yes, exactly. So something like that, I think would be really fun. Yeah. Like if, I don't know, rent out a whole city block and like every building has like shop owners who are actors. I mean, cool. You can just keep going with this. You can just keep going.
And now Olivia makes a lot more sense.
The whole loop, all of the loop has been closed out for a private event.
I might not have thought about the scope of this question, knowing how much you love committing to a bit. I should have expected you to commit fully. Be like, what if I just control a city? Which is my mistake. Because I also didn't think about it. It also sounds really cool.
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my final question. I know you talked about this as a fun project for you, so that you can see how deep into questions that you can get. But a lot of this involves being very vulnerable and being very open. And I thought it would be fun to return the favor and close this with, is there anything you've wanted to know about me, but haven't felt like it was a good time or appropriate to ask?
Oh.
And I would be happy to share with you anything that you would like to ask about.
Oh,
just one, because I'm not making this about me. But
okay.
This was the first question I came up with when you first asked me about this idea. And so I've been sitting on this.
Wow. A little reverse interview. Okay. Let's see. Okay. We've talked a lot about me being a creative person and claiming that adjective for myself. What is the adjective that you are trying to claim, if you haven't yet, or have claimed for yourself? And why?
I don't know that I know, because I mean, there are things, right? There are things that I very confidently call myself, right? When we're talking about like my queerness, right? I'm aggressive about that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to anything creative, this happens a lot when I think about like what I do for work. Whether you call it imposter syndrome or something else, right? If someone called me creative for, running Vampire, right? My immediate response is, well, it's just a silly little tabletop game, right? A bunch of other artists made the rules and the game, and I'm just like throwing a bunch of ideas into it, but other people have done all the work, right? Or y'all players are doing all the work, and I'm not really doing very much at all. Because I think there is I have this idea of like an imaginary threshold that like has to get reached before, oh, you've earned the thing. So making a video for your work or making the book interview, right? Obviously that counts for you as being creative. You made it and filmed the thing. Because you made a video, that's a threshold. But like, if I had done that, right, that threshold would not have applied to me. Or the stuff I do, right? Coming up with these, running this, any of the other stuff that like people have told me counts, right? I'm very quick to dismiss. So I don't know that I've gotten to the stage where I have like, I have even felt comfortable enough to say, oh, hey, that is a label that I can pursue and apply to me. It has sort of always felt a little bit out of reach. It's kind of why I was asking you about is there a moment for you when it clicked? Because as anybody will tell you, I'm the worst person at taking compliments. And if someone says I did a thing that is creative, I'm like, no. And like, for some reason, creativity has a big like block for me there.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, like writer would seem like a very good one. I do that for work. I do that for this. But like, well, my brain immediately goes, well, it's not a novel or it's not a short story, so it doesn't really count. Right. And you can just do that to infinity.
Yep. I know this very well.
Which is kind of why I wanted to ask you about it, because like, I know that is, flaw's not the right word, but like, it is a toxic trait of mine to be that dismissive about my own stuff. So now I can't remember if I answered the question. Because like, it almost feels like it's too, even identifying the thing to want to claim is going too far.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty extreme lack of confidence now that I think about it.
I mean, it's constant work. Like I think I mentioned this to Randy as well. I literally have a note on my phone, right? Screenshot things people tell me about myself that are positive, good, whatever, or even just descriptors about myself, so that I can look at it constantly and hopefully someday convince myself that all these things people say about me is who I am. And very glacially, that progress has happened. So I hope you can move a few centimeters too.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, maybe I should start doing that. That's a good idea.
It's helped me a lot.
Turns out taking notes is really helpful.
Turns out. Yeah.
So yeah, cool. That was all I had. So
incredible.
Thank you for. Well, who's thanking who in this situation? Right, you invited me to do this.
Well, I can definitely thank you for being our guest host.
For being the actual host and letting all these random people interview you.
Yeah, thanks so much. You were definitely one of the first people I thought of asking
Thank you.
to do this. So I really appreciate your questions and the discussion. And if I were to give you an adjective now, I think of you as a community builder, and I really admire that about you and aspire to it. So you can dismiss that in your head all you want, but it's going to be on video.
I wasn't doing that. I wasn't. Stop. Don't argue.
It's going to be on the internet forever now, so you can deal with that however you want to. So
that's fine. It's my to be a little Catholic. It's my cross to bear.
Incredible. Cool. Well, this was great. Thanks again.
Perfect.
He's going to hate this, but I'd like to thank Chris for taking the time to interview me. It was a really wonderful discussion, and I'm so glad that we got to do it. I'm very excited for the next friends that I have lined up to interview me. There are already 4 more after this that are waiting in the wings. So look forward to those. And you're watching this and you know me well, I may ask you to interview me soon. So think about what you'd want to ask me. And look forward to seeing the others that will come.